and I love you, but I didn't want to really be around you during that time.
Yeah, I'm Ramon Jones, and this is my beautiful daughter, Monique Jones. And we wanted to have a conversation as dad and daughter, and I think that we need to have a little bit more dialogue when it comes to fathers in the home, or just fathers, period, when they have children. For those that do not know our story, I would definitely encourage you to go on our websites and to take a look. Even the book that we have we've published last year, my wife and I, Monica, and so definitely talks about the detail. But to bring everybody up to speed, a couple of years back, I was in a bad space, right? Mm-hmm. And well, first of all, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
I'm sorry, I just jumped right into it. I was just ready to go. You're doing good. You're in school. How's school going?
It's going.
It's going good?
Yeah.
Good. I got a beautiful daughter. I'm proud of her. They're doing way, and I say they, my son as well, they're doing way better than I was in school, and so I definitely celebrate. I think you're very intelligent, smart. I'm glad you take after your mom's beauty and intelligence. I do have something that she has. I'm just trying to figure out what it is.
People say I look like you.
Well, that's a good compliment then. I think, yeah, thank you. Well, thank you, Princess. I appreciate that. A couple of years back, we obviously, now is in a different space, but a couple of years back, our family was hit hard with some selfish decisions on my end. We were just going through a tough time, my wife and I, Monica, and it was just not good in the home. For us, I'm saying for us, my wife and I, we just were having a miserable time, couldn't get on the same page, it was not working. But sometimes that's us. Mm-hmm. Talk to me, from your lens, what was your experience of that season in our life? Because there's those that do not talk to their children about it. They just move on because their life is better, but don't know that others were impacted that are connected to them. When you reflect as much as you can, because you was 9 or 10 around that time, so as much as you can, what was it like being in the home at that time?
It was very, very difficult. I don't know. I was trying to figure out how to explain it because I feel like I wore my heart on the sleeve, my sleeve, but then I also kept a lot in during that time. But it was very difficult, just between the arguing and all of the things that were going on. It was very difficult. The feelings of being scared, of not knowing what's going to happen, the anger that you feel. It was a very difficult time during that period and experiencing all of those things.
So what were some of the things you were experiencing? For those that do not know, what were some of the things that you were experiencing? Because this is your reality. Your truth is your reality as far as what you experienced, what you saw, the way you interpreted it is not the same as somebody else. Because I got my story and I don't have a problem sharing my perspective. But for you as a young lady, saying your parents, what were you seeing? When you say that, what were you seeing that somebody else can identify or with what you're speaking about?
Just no peace. There's no peace. There was just always turmoil or arguing or yelling or you didn't even know what was happening. A conversation that you thought was going well takes a left turn. Now everyone, and then being in the room with Malachi trying to calm him down. Well, I think the other way around, of just tears and crying and of hearing it and not seeing it, which brings a whole new level of fearfulness of hearing the arguing but not being able to see if everything was all right because we were in a room because y'all didn't want us to be in that environment, but we were still in that environment. So yeah, I think just seeing your parents not on one accord is a very difficult thing for kids. I mean, and we weren't used to it. Right. I mean, I think, and I know some kids who have had that since the beginning, and so they've now become used to that, and it's just their parents are yelling, just another day in my household. But for us, that wasn't how we rolled from the beginning. That's not how we were. We were one big happy family who had the difficulties, but we were in it together. There was never none of that disrespect. And then now to have all of it like every day, and it just continues to get worse and worse and worse. Yeah, it was very tough.
Yeah, and our thought was, my thought was, if we had a disagreement, let's go in the room. But yet, you know, the walls are thin. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
not like we were in some cement house that, you know, when you go in a room, a vault that nobody can hear. Our voices still would raise, and you know, definitely when you want to be heard and the family get loud, but not knowing that others are being impacted by it. You said you would get scared. Why would you get scared?
Because I know a lot of the times it might have escalated to a little bit of physical things, but I think just that and
Go ahead and
just,
explain. Yeah,
Oh, okay, I didn't
see,
know.
a lot of times when you're sharing something, you know, we have had the opportunity as a family to already share.
Okay.
So there's nothing you can say that doesn't hurt or tarnish who we are or who I am as a person. So I you know, because this is my daughter, you know, sometimes you always got that. I don't want to say something that hurts or offends. No, listen, I think we've told more than probably people need to know, but on the sake of wanting to bring healing to people. When you say afraid and you say physical, what are you talking about?
Well, I think a lot of the arguments led into physical things where people will put their hands on each other, and so we've been there for, I think, not all of them, but like most of those encounters, and so that's scary. And I think because she's obviously a woman and things like that, she's like the less, like she's more, you know, I think
She's weak not by strength as far as mentality,
But physical.
but what we believe as far as scripture is that a woman should be treated like a woman, right? Taken care of and stuff like that. So for me to be physical and I would get upset, I would get mad, I would want to throw something. I just was a hothead, again, not thinking, not in the best place. And when you know you can't be heard as a man, you know, the only thing that some that are ignorant, and I say some that are ignorant because I was in that capacity, is you feel like, well, you're not gonna listen to me, I know one thing, I'm stronger than you, right? And that doesn't correct nothing. If anything, it just makes it worse, you know, once the dust settles. And that's where my head was that if I'm not being heard, I know one thing that I can do is I'm stronger. But it was the worst. It was bad decisions all around. So the fear of being in a household like that. When you say that, how are you looking at me now as your dad?
I think
because I was a cool dad, right?
Yeah.
I still am.
Well, yeah,
but
now,
then
yeah.
when I started doing stuff like that, how were you starting to see me as your dad?
I think, well, I definitely painted you as this big bad villain. I don't even know how I felt back then. I don't know if I think I still, obviously you're my father, and I think I just, the respect started to lose itself, in the way I felt towards you. And yeah, I think because of all those things, I didn't want you there, or I would just want to leave. Like if we were trying to go and mom would be like, let me just go talk to him. I'd be like, no, like let's just leave, or let's go, or let him leave. Or I remember one time one thing happened and we like just, you know, we ran away because it was just too much. And that was better to me than both of y'all being there like that, just being away.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
So you guys, there's all kind of stories that we could take and make literally a movie off of it, because this is stuff we're not making up. This is stuff that we've lived. So were you angry?
Very angry. I don't know if I didn't show it in the best way, but I was very angry, especially towards you. Like I said, I think I painted you as this big bad villain, and I didn't comprehend what was necessarily going on or what you were experiencing. I think now as I get older and realize kind of the things of the difficult parts of life, but like you said, I was like 9 or I was like 10, and like you don't understand anything. You just see your dad yelling and screaming, and mom would be like, oh, he's just going through a hard time, but I don't know what that means. I'd be like, okay, well, everyone's going through a hard time, so we should be able to do things not like this.
Right.
But yeah, I was very angry, and I think I started to become a little closed off during that time.
Yeah, which is I can only imagine. Again, going through it, my thoughts was me, right? Where I'm at, I'm hurt, I'm mad as a man, I'm not being heard, being misunderstood, making bad decisions, not knowing that I'm hurting you or or any of my children, my son in the process. And so it was just about me in that moment. And we got to the place where we finally decided that, it'd just be best to go get your own place. We just came to the conclusion that I was leaving. I decided I wanted to get out. I wanted to get my own place. What was that like, me not now living in the home?
I feel like it was good and bad. It was good because there was some sense of peace, even though it wasn't like true, obviously, with God reconciled. It wasn't like true peace, but there was like this sense of peace because like there was no more arguing when you guys were separate. Everything was fine. We lived our life.
You would rather have that than and than have it the other way around.
And I was fine if we were going to visit you. I think it was just when it was all four of us, or especially when you and mom were in the same place, it was bad. And when we would go visit your apartment and we would be in the pool and then we would see you guys arguing in the hot tub, and then the fun's over now because now we have to watch like, okay, is everything okay? And then y'all would leave and go to the apartment, and now we couldn't enjoy because we were nervous, like, okay, well, we don't know what's going on over there. And so I think I was happy like when we would go see you and you would take us to Chuck E. Cheese or you'd take us to the park and stuff. A part of me obviously was happy because I'm still your daughter and I love you. But I didn't want to really be around you during that time.
Yeah, and that hurts to hear me. You about to cry, aren't you?
Nope.
Okay. Then that hurts me to even hear that because, I'll be honest with you, a lot of that stuff, is hearing you guys talk about it that brings it back to my attention, because a lot of stuff I wasn't in the right state of mind. I was starting to dabble in things I shouldn't have been, drinking and all these other things. And so it was clouding my judgment and even my memory of things. So to hear these things from you guys and Monica, my wife, to talk about this stuff is sometimes it's very sobering to hear it, because I think a lot of times we don't know as people, as adults, as parents, what we're doing that impacts you guys, our kids, right? We just think that it's not a big deal. I'm going through something. I'm going to get better. We're going to get through it. And then we don't realize that our kids are struggling with stuff because they were hurt. They were left back a couple of years back. So those are times, I try to make the best in that moment, but it was all wrong, right? Me moving out, me leaving, me doing those things. It just was not healthy. We tried. Your mom and I that was a bad place for us. It was horrible. I called that, when I talk to people, I call that the dark period of our family, the dark period, where it was just all bad. It was, I don't think nothing out of that. Well, I have to say God knows how to bring all things back, but for me, it was just like all bad. So it was about 9 months. Now, the fact of us possibly divorcing, what was your thoughts about that? That being final, that this is mom and dad are going to finally go their different separate ways?
I think, again, bittersweet, because I knew that obviously wanted you together, like we talked about did we want our parents to get a divorce. I obviously didn't want you guys to get a divorce because I loved our family together, and I love when we're all together, and during the happy and the joyful and times like that when it was full of peace. But during, again, that time, there's just no peace, and there was always arguing. So I think, like I said, it was a bittersweet thing, and I can't remember the exact feelings because I don't remember. I remember the thought of divorce, but I didn't know that it was you guys were that close to the thing. I didn't, because again we were kids. We didn't know all the details, so I didn't know you guys were that close to signing the papers and stuff.
Yeah, we were very close, and thank God, because as we've said in so many sit down sessions, and that it was God that came back and really healed me and healed Monica, and so much has changed because of our decision to be humble and to admit we needed help. We got counseling. We went through counseling and got great mentors into our life, people we talked to. It's an amazing story of a turnaround. But now went through about 9 months of separation, almost divorce papers, literally, to now, the arguing, all this stuff, and now all of a sudden you hear I'm coming back home. Do you remember that when Dad moved out, got his own place, we're going to visit him, you know what I mean? I'm up here acting stupid, and now Dad is coming back home.
I do remember it because I think you guys were at the church we were at. You're talking to the pastor, and then I called or something, and you guys called, and then Mom was like, we're going to get Dad stuff because he's moving back home. I think it was happy initially, or because we're gonna get into it. It was initially happy and like, oh, the family's being back together. But I think it was like, I'll believe it when I see it type thing. Like, okay, everything's better now. We'll see what if it actually happens. I was kind of like an unbeliever believer.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I mean, because again, from a child's perspective, is for as much as you know what has changed, right? You left because things are bad. You've been gone because things are bad, and now you're back. So what makes it? And your mom was the same way. There were some things that she wanted I want to see it to believe it type of thing. And that's, that's fair, especially coming from a lot of hurt and pain. I remember when we had, God put in my heart to have everyone write a letter. And I had you write a letter, Malachi, Monica, myself, and we all wrote a letter of just our life and how things have been going and how we feel and about things that have been going on in this family marriage. And you guys, man, you guys were just straight. And the object was to be as transparent and honest as possible, 100%. Don't hold nothing back. And you and Malachi, wrote letters that just literally made me weep like a baby. And it was because to hear your heart of your disappointment. Of seeing me as dad, as a man to look up to, the one to protect, to know that I hurt you and wasn't protecting your mom. To hear you say that and read it back to me, it stopped me in my heart. You know what I mean? Because it was in that moment that I realized the damage I was doing to my family. You know what I'm saying? That I was doing, even as God was working. It was hearing you as my princess, because I love, ever since we brought you home from the hospital, because we lost our first one, right? Monet, your older sister, we lost her. So when we had you, it was like, man, thank you, God, for allowing us to have a child, and we just wanted to take care of you and love on you. And to see the very child that we nourished and nurtured, and now she's looking at me with tears in her eyes and crying and saying, you let me down, it was hard. It was very hard for me. And I want you to know that I love you, and I'm so proud of you. Even to have this conversation, you wanted to talk. You wanted to have a conversation. What's so important that we sit down and we talk about something this deep and personal that you wanted others to hopefully get from this?
Because I think a lot of kids are dealing with this, and they don't have that opportunity to be able to hear someone else's story, to know that they're not alone, and to also hear that even now, or even back then when we were writing letters and everything, I was still dealing with that bitterness and that unforgiveness, and it took a while to be able to relinquish that to God, because again, I was young. But I think this is going to make an impact on so many others, to see a father and daughter who went through something so tough to be able to make it on the other side. I think it's going to give hope to a lot of others out there.
I agree. Where do we go from here? Because it's been a lot. It's been several years since then. How have we been doing since all of that? How have we been doing?
I think we're good now. I think, like I said before, there was still bitterness when you came home, and even with writing the letters, there was a lot of bitterness and unforgiveness. And I believe it was like around 4 years ago that I said something and talked about it. And then I think seeing you change and seeing you healed and delivered, I think I've been able to understand that you are changed, not because of just you wanted to do good now, but because of God, and getting older and experiencing my own relationship with God, being able to see how I interact with God and how I think it helped me to be able to move on and to let it go. And I think it's important for me to let others know that sometimes you still get those feelings or those thoughts of hearing you guys disagree. I know it's nowhere where it was, but sometimes I still get a little nervous, or I still think. But I think it's so amazing, because I can think and be like, well, I know my dad, and I know that he's changed because of God, and as long as he's strong in his relationship with God, that it won't go back to the way it was. And so yeah, I still, like I said, get nervous or get a little fearful or whatever, but because I've seen you interact and how you interact with God and how you're serious and how you are moving in your life, I know that, you know, everything will be okay.
Amen. Amen. And we don't script nothing that we do as a family. Any of our platforms that we're on, they're never scripted. We talk about what it is that we desire to talk about, and we allow the person to be authentic and to have an organic conversation. So everything you're hearing from Monique is strictly straight from her heart. And I'm glad. I think our relationship is definitely amazing. You're blossoming to be a beautiful young lady. I'm so proud of you. I wish your grandmother was still alive to see the beauty that you're blossoming to become. But you are been a great big sister to your brother. You're a joy to have. I'm so godly proud of you, and I'm proud to be your dad. You know, that area of our life it's a wound, it's a scar, and I'm thanking God that He is allowing us to heal past that and to hopefully bring healing to someone else. And I just say this to you, if you're watching this and if you are a father, your children need you. Don't assume that what you have done did not hurt them. You don't know unless you hear them. And I had to do the hard thing and allow my children to be honest with how I hurt them. I'm not talking about things that you need to correct in your family or children and discipline. I'm not talking about those things. I'm talking about stuff where you were out of line, undisciplined yourself, and then you hurt them in the process. So I thank God for this opportunity to sit down with you. You are, preparing to, as you're going, we were talking about college the other day, talking about all these things. Time goes by fast, and I'm just so glad that God is doing some amazing things. Now you guys do Led to You, and that platform speaks to other young people that are going through all kind of different things. So you guys give various topics for this very reason. So from this, God has seemed to use the family to do much to say. Your mom and I, where we do blogs and things to help other marriages and people looking to get married. And now you and your brother are doing Led to You. So it's full circle. You see how God has come in and had to heal us from these broken pieces in our life. There's so much that we got to say. Is there anything else you would like to say before we leave?
No, I think we covered it. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you got something from it. No matter if your situation looks a little different, maybe it's not father-daughter, maybe it's mother and son. You never know. But whatever what we said, I'm sure it touched you in some sort of way. Like I said, if the situations are different, something we said did something.
Listen, if you enjoyed this, if it inspired you, if it encouraged you, if it provokes you to do something better or different in your household, we would love to hear from you. We would love to hear, comment, reach out to us. Let us know, because we want to see you make it. We want to see you win. We want to see your family healthy as God has favored us to do the same thing for us. I believe He can do it in your household. It's never too late. If you're willing and open, I believe He can do the same for you. Listen, on behalf of Monique, Nicole Jones, and Ramon Lamar Jones, we love you. God bless. See you soon. Bye-bye. Love you, Princess.
Love you soon.